Okay, thanks for the introduction. First of all, I want to say that I'm pretty happy to be here. I learned Python 3 years ago because I heard about the Python that was in AFIT. So it is like at that time I said that I wanted to be a speaker here. So that's why I'm pretty happy right now. I'm also a bit nervous, but I'm more happy than anything. The other thing that it's pretty great for me is that I love Python community. So I feel I learned so much from you guys. So it feels great to be able to give you something in exchange for everything that I've learned from you. So I hope that this will be like you will enjoy this presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end. Or if you have a new question in the coming days, you can contact me on my email, Twitter, or whatever you want. So I'm happy to answer everything. So what we're gonna do is that at the beginning, I'm gonna explain to you guys what is Shinyproxy and how does it work. Then I'm gonna go to the Kubernetes part and talk about GitHub Actions. And at the end, little things about the extras, which are the authentication process and the certification for have HTTPS, right? So this is pretty important. I'm gonna stay here for a minute because I know that we are gonna like see a lot of things. So I made like this repo because I want you guys to be able to replicate what we are gonna do right here, like pretty easy. So that's why just go to the repo, clone it, and do whatever you want with that information. Everything is in there, except for the secrets. But I think that it's gonna be like pretty useful. So if you guys want to go along with me, you can clone it right now, and it's gonna be a better experience for you guys. So that's it. So what is Shinyproxy, right? Shinyproxy is an open source software that was created thinking about Shiny. And yes, Shiny, it's not Python. Shiny is R. But the idea behind that is that that software was made by a company that is called Open Analytics. And the idea that they made is that they have a software that when a user says that he wants to get access to an application, that software creates a container or a pod and make it accessible for the user, right? So the idea is that I have a Docker image and the user have access to that Docker image, right? So if you think about it, it's gonna be like pretty easy to change the image from using Shiny to using Python and Dash, right? So it is like a simple idea that works pretty well. So I hope that I can show you guys how to do that. So the idea is that and here, what is Shinyproxy? This is how does it work, right? So think about Shinyproxy as a list of applications, right? So when the users goes into your application, to the mother of your application, he will see this list, right? So if he clicks to this one, which I call Pokédex, what Shinyproxy will do is that it creates a pod in the cluster. You will see that here. And then the user doesn't see this. The user just sees that he has access to the applications. So that's like pretty, the experience is great for the user. and you can do whatever you want, right? So here in this application, you will have like a hello application, which is the basic application of Shinyproxy. So it works with R. Then I have the basic application of Dash. It works with this one. Then we have a more complex application here with runs on Shiny. And then not a complex, but a simple application of Dash, but working with a custom image, right? So this is what we have here. And well, so this was like a link in case that this didn't work well. So I want to show you guys how does this work. So when the user goes to Shinyproxy, what it does is that at the beginning, he will have like the authentication process, right? If you want, you can leave it without an authentication process. But for now, I think that this is like basic, right? And to be honest, this authentication, it's not secure. Do not use this in case you have like higher requirements of security. This is just like because this is an example, right? So I'm gonna use the Jack password, and then the user authenticates, and what the user sees is that he is seeing a list of applications, right? After he clicks here, Shinyproxy, it's creating a pod, and then give me the access for that application. As you can see, that works perfectly, and everything is pretty cool. If I go to the cluster, I will see that pod it's running right now. And so this is like pretty simple, right? And if I click here in a second application that works with Dash, it will take like some time because right now it is like creating the pod. So it takes some time because it's not already created. But after a while, we will see that the user will have access to the Dash application. This is a simple Dash application. This is not speak about how to make great Dash applications, but it's more like how can you deploy those applications. It's taking so long. Well, now it's working. So here you have your Dash app, right? So how does it actually work, right? If you want to understand Shinyproxy, you will have to understand this file that is called the application.yml. That file is in the repo, right? And what's in that file? You will see here. You will have like the title. You will have this that is the image that you will see here. I mean, you can leave it like no image, but I wanted to make the logo of the Python, so that's why I put it there. And then you will have like a lot of important stuff. This is the part where I say to Shinyproxy, hey, you're gonna work with Kubernetes, right? So if you want, you can leave this alone. I mean, do not touch this. And then this is the more important part, which is when I'm telling which are the applications that are available for a user, right? So how can I like make available another application? So we will see that we have here the ID. ID has to be a unique identifier of each application and cannot, and on the name, it has to go without white spaces, right? Then we have the display name and a description. It is like the title and the subtitle. And then we will have two important parts, right? The most important part of the list. And is that here we will have the container, the command that we're gonna run once we created the pod or the container, right? So for R, what we run is this kind of line, which is function of R. But if you are using Python, what you should do is run this. Okay, so the idea is that you will have to be, I'm gonna start over here. So in the specs, what you will have to be like pretty clear here is that when you are creating a new application, you will have to say which is the unique identifier, which goes here. You will have to say which is the display name, that is like the title of the application, the description, which is like the subtitle of the application. And then you will have what is the image, the Docker image that you are going to use for that application, right? So you can use a public Docker image like this one or this one, right? Or you can use your own image that it's on your container registry, and which is what I do here. So that's like pretty important because you might like want to use your unique image and not a public image, right? So that's like pretty important for you guys. And to deploy Dash application, and the command that you're gonna use, it's not a command from Dash, but you are gonna use a command from Unicorn. So why? Because I don't know you guys, but I think that many of us, when we deploy an application in our computers, I mean in Windows, and you have like a big banner that says like, this is not a production environment. So I don't want to have that kind of lines if I am in production, right? So what I did is that I run the Dash with a Flask server. So, and then I use Unicorn to deploy that. This is like pretty simple. Sounds weird, but it's pretty simple. You will see the change that you have to do in every application. Here, it is in the folder Dash apps app1.py. Here, you will have this, and it's like pretty simple. Just import Flask, create a Flask server, and when you create the object of the application of the Dash application, you will say that the server that you're gonna use is that Flask server, right? And that's all. You don't have to change anything else. And the other thing that it's important for Shinyproxy is to add these lines here. Why? Because of the URL routing when you are deploying a Dash application. So when you are like putting your own Dash application, remember to copy these lines into your own application. It's not a lot. It is like pretty simple, right? So, and remember that at the end, you will have to put this thing. I mean, that the app runs on this port, right? So on the application.yml, that's also a pretty important part, right? As you might see here, if the application is a Shiny application, I do not specify the port. But if it is a Dash application, I specify the port. Why? Because by default, Shinyproxy was made thinking about Shiny, so it works like more easily with Shiny. So that's why if I'm gonna do like something like not as simple as the simple case, I have to make like I have to specify this. And the other thing that is pretty important is that when I am creating the image that runs this application, I have to expose that port. So in the Docker file, in the dash folder, you will see that you have this port exposed, right? So that's it. So as I told you, this is a lot, I know, but there is the repo. There is also the documentation of Open Analytics. But the other cool part that I wanted to show you guys is how does the GitHub Actions works, right? Why? Because this is pretty cool, the GitHub Actions. Let me show you this. The GitHub Actions, what it does is that when we make a change in the development branch and we like push that into development, GitHub, it's gonna run everything. So when you, I mean, you're just doing a push to development, and then GitHub automatically, by magic, it authenticates into Google. It's gonna change some important words, like when the words that specify if you are working in production or in development. It's gonna create and publish your Docker images, and then it's gonna deploy your app into the Kubernetes cluster. Everything is gonna work like in 3 minutes, and you have to do like nothing, because GitHub Action does that for you. So it is like pretty great, right? So another thing that it's like pretty important is that here I have like I'm able to have the development and the production environment, right? But I'm not doing the unit testing here, right? You have to be like you have to be very meticulous if you want to do it in your company or in your personal projects. Like before you do a commit into development, please run your unit testing in your computer, and if everything works, then do this. Or you can change the GitHub Actions to run the unit testing. But so far, what we have here is just that we have the continuous deployment, but not the continuous integration part. So how can you see and how can you change the GitHub Actions? That's in this folder, that it's .github/workflows. You will have this .gml file, and it is like pretty simple, to be honest. What it does is that at the beginning, it authenticates into the cluster, and then I use this command that it's called sed. What it does is that it's change everything, every string that it's like this, it changes for this, which is a variable of the environment, a virtual environment variable here, right? And what it does, it is like pretty simple. So it changes everything in this file, right? Why? Because I want to change a lot of things that depends on where I'm working, right? So that's why here I'm gonna change the branch that it shows if I am in development or in main, right? So if I am in development or in production, right? And the other thing is that I made this because I want to make it like pretty simple for you guys to just copy and paste everything in your own. So if I you just have to change the environment. If you want to run this on your own, you will have to change just these things. I mean, these steps are, you don't have to modify that. So that's why I made that like on this way, right? So, and the steps are like pretty simple. It authenticates, then I create the images, and then I publish, and then I deploy in Kubernetes. How does it work? I'm gonna show you guys, and that's like pretty simple. We can go here to application and look how does it work. I mean, before I speak, I'm gonna change this to live, and live commit. Save all and commit, and I'm gonna push. Right. So everything should be working. And if I go to the repo, I'm gonna be here and look at this. I mean, 10 seconds ago, I did a push, and now everything is working. If I go here, I will see that right now it is authenticating, right? After it authenticates, now it's gonna be building the images, and everything works pretty fine, and you don't have to do nothing. So this part, I mean, the deployment part, it's automatically. You don't have to do like nothing. So that's pretty great. So we will see that maybe in 2 minutes, we will see here that the change that I did is that I changed just the title, right? Before speak becomes live. So it is PyCon 2021 live, right? Because we're live here. So I think that's it. And well, the final part that I wanted to show you guys before we go to the Q&A, it's the extra part, right? So what if you guys want to, I mean, here, look, I have this without hacer, without a DNS and without HTTPS, right? If you want to do that, you can do it, and you have to, I mean, there are like several ways that you can do it, but there is at least one way that I know that it works, and is that using an ingress controller, right? If you use an ingress controller, you will manage the DNS and this SSL certification. So it's gonna work like pretty easy for you if you use an ingress controller in your cluster in Kubernetes, right? And for the authentication part, as I said, right here, you have a simple authentication. It works, but it's not like the best way to secure your application, because, well, here, if someone has access to the source code, he will have access to the user and the password. So it's not a good idea to do that. So you will have to do something better. So I think that the best way to do it is, if you are not like working in a company that has Azure Active Directory, you can use this kind of authentication following auth0, or you can use, or if you are in company that has Azure Active Directory, I should recommend that you guys follow the OpenID instruction in the documentation and use your Azure Active Directory. And that works pretty fine. I've done that in Protección, and it's working like pretty good. So that's it. So here, look at it. It finished. So when I come here, I refresh this. I have to authenticate. Look, a deployment in 3 minutes. Nothing to do. Just change something, make a push, and the GitHub Actions does the magic for us. So at least for me, that's like pretty awesome. And this Shinyproxy thing, it's also pretty great. I know that you guys, there is a high probability that in your work, you make a lot of things and you have to show those results to your bosses or to other people inside your organization. So using apps, it's a great way to do that because there are some cases in which the most common platforms are not good enough. Like Power BI works pretty well, but there are some things that you cannot do there. So to work in an application, it's a good idea. So that's why I think that this can be like pretty useful for you guys in your professional life. So I think that's it.